You walk through the door, and before you even have time to take off your shoes, your cat does it. That long, dramatic stretch. Front paws reaching forward, back lifting slightly, eyes soft, body relaxed. And most people look at that moment and think, oh, that's cute. But what if that stretch is not random at all? What if your cat is not just loosening up, but actually responding to you? Because the truth is, one of the most overlooked moments in daily life with a cat might also be one of the most personal. That little stretch you see when you come home, when you wake up, or when you walk into a room may be carrying a message most cat owners never realize they're receiving. And once you understand what it means, you may never look at your cat the same way again. The first thing you need to know is this. Cats are not careless animals. They do not waste energy, they do not perform for no reason, and they are constantly reading the environment around them, including you. So, when your cat stretches right when you appear, timing matters. That's the part people miss. Your cat may have been alone for hours. They had the whole couch, the windowsill, the hallway, the bed, the rug. Plenty of chances to stretch, plenty of quiet moments, plenty of time to move, adjust, and relax. But somehow, the stretch happens when you walk in. That is not just a coincidence. That is a response. And in many cases, it's what behavior experts describe as a social signal. Not just a body movement, but a piece of communication. A quiet one, a feline one, but communication all the same. Your presence changed something. The moment you entered the room, your cat's body shifted into a behavior that says more than most people realize. And the meaning behind it gets even more interesting. Because for many cats, that stretch is linked to comfort. Not just physical comfort, emotional comfort. Think about it. Stretching is a vulnerable action. It exposes the body. It lowers defenses. It happens when an animal feels safe enough to release tension. So when your cat does that in front of you or because of you, that can be a powerful sign that your presence is associated with security. In other words, your arrival changes the emotional temperature of the room. You walk in and your cat relaxes. That's a big deal, especially when you remember what cats are like by nature. They are observant, cautious, selective. They do not hand out trust freely. They build it slowly, through patterns, routines, and repeated experiences. So, if your cat sees you and stretches, there's a good chance that somewhere in their mind, you are connected to relief. You are the familiar thing, the safe thing, the home thing. And honestly, that's one of the most beautiful compliments a cat can give. But that is only one layer of it, because your cat may also be doing something even more subtle in that moment, something you can't see and probably never noticed. Cats experience the world through scent far more than most people understand. They have scent glands in different parts of the body, including around the face and even around the paws. And when they press, knead, rub, or stretch in certain places, they may be leaving tiny scent markers behind. Not in a dramatic way, not in a way that means aggression, but in a way that says, "This matters to me. This belongs in my world. This feels familiar." So when your cat stretches near your feet, in your path, or in the exact spot where you just entered, that moment may also be tied to quiet marking behavior. Not ownership in the harsh sense, more like emotional claiming. Like your cat is saying, "You are part of my space, part of my routine, part of my comfort." And that changes the way the gesture feels, doesn't it? Because suddenly, that stretch is not just adorable, it's personal. Now, here's where it gets really interesting. If you live with more than one person, your cat may not do this equally for everyone. Maybe your cat ignores one person, casually tolerates another, but stretches the second you show up. Or maybe it's your partner, your child, your roommate, or your parent who gets that special greeting. Why? Because cats do not distribute affection evenly. They form preferences, and those preferences are often built around consistency. Who moves gently around them? Who respects their boundaries? Who notices their signals? Who feels predictable? Who feels calm? Cats pay attention to all of that. They notice who startles them and who doesn't. They remember who rushes towards them and who lets them approach first. They learn who responds when they seek connection and who misses those quiet attempts. Over time, they build a relationship map. And when a cat stretches in greeting towards one specific person over and over again, that may be their way of revealing exactly where that person sits on the map. So if your cat does this for you, don't brush it off. You didn't just get lucky. You probably earned that response through something far more meaningful than treats or toys. You earned it through steadiness, through repetition, through being someone your cat has learned to trust. And trust from a cat is never a small thing. Now, let's talk about one of the sweetest versions of this behavior, the morning stretch. If you have a cat, you may know exactly what I mean. You open your eyes, and somehow they are already there. Maybe sitting on the bed, maybe near your face, maybe pretending they weren't watching you for the last 5 minutes, and then the second you move, they stretch. That moment is incredibly easy to dismiss, but in many homes, it's one of the clearest signs of bond. Cats are often active during the early morning hours. They may have been awake before you. They may have walked around the house, checked the windows, listened to every tiny sound in the dark, and returned before dawn. And yet, they wait until you're awake to do that stretch. Why? Because it's not just about their body, it's about your awareness. Your cat is not only moving, they are greeting. It's almost like a feline version of, "Oh, good, you're up." And there's something strangely touching about that, because when you sleep, you are completely vulnerable. You're still, unaware, quiet. And many closely bonded cats choose to stay nearby during those hours, sometimes at the foot of the bed, sometimes beside the pillow, sometimes just in the same room. So when your cat stretches as you wake up, it can feel like a release of tension after a long watch. Like they're saying, everything is okay. You're here, I'm here. We're starting the day together. That's not just routine, that's ritual. And cats love rituals with the people they trust most. But there's another version of the stretch that feels less tender and a little more strategic. You know the one. You're walking to the kitchen, carrying laundry, coming through the hallway, half asleep, in a hurry, and somehow your cat chooses that exact moment to stretch directly across the narrowest part of the floor. Right where you have to stop, right where you cannot avoid them. That is not an accident. Cats are masters of timing. They know your routes, your habits, your patterns. They know which doorway you always use, which corner you cut, which room you head to first. They are far more aware of your routine than most people realize. So when your cat stretches right in your path, there is a good chance that they are doing more than just relaxing. They are getting your attention in the most effective way possible. And it works, doesn't it? You stop, you look down, you talk to them, maybe you laugh, maybe you pet them, maybe you step around them like they own the house, which, in their mind, they probably do. That stretch becomes a way of pulling you into their orbit, a tiny interruption that says, pause, notice me, interact with me. And once you start seeing it that way, it becomes oddly brilliant, because your cat figured out how to make you stop without making a sound. Now, maybe you've been listening to all of this and thinking, that's nice, but my cat never does that. And if that's you, take a breath, because this is not a judgment on your bond. Not every cat communicates the same way. Some are naturally more reserved, some had rough starts in life, some are still learning that closeness is safe. Some simply use different signals. A slow blink, sitting nearby, following you from room to room, sleeping in your space, waiting outside the bathroom door like a tiny, silent bodyguard. Love from a cat does not always look dramatic. Sometimes it looks almost invisible. And sometimes a cat that never stretches in greeting is not cold at all. They may just be cautious or quiet, or still figuring out whether their signals will be noticed. That part matters more than most people think. Cats learn from response. If they reach out in small ways and nobody reacts, some of them don't stop caring. They just stop broadcasting so clearly. They become more subtle, more internal, more careful. That's why attention matters. Not forced attention, not overwhelming affection, just awareness. When your cat comes near, notice it.
When they blink slowly, blink back. When they choose the same room as you, respect that choice. When they stretch in front of you even once, recognize it for what it may be, a small opening, a quiet act of trust, a signal that says, in the language cats know best, I feel good with you here. And sometimes, especially with shy or rescued cats, that signal can take months to appear. But when it finally does, it can be unforgettable. Because by then, you understand what it cost them to offer it. And that's what makes this whole thing so special. The stretch is small, easy to miss, easy to dismiss. But for a cat, small things are often the real things. So the next time you walk in and your cat stretches the second they see you, don't just smile and move on. Pause for a second. Look closer. Because that moment may be your cat's way of saying your presence matters, your energy is familiar, and your arrival changes the room.
Because that moment may be your cat's way of saying that your presence matters, your energy is familiar, and your arrival changes the room in the best possible way. Not bad for a gesture most people think is just about muscles. If this made you see your cat a little differently, make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and stay with us for the next one. And tell me in the comments, does your cat do this when you walk in, or do they have their own secret way of showing love? See you in the next video.